Hey, everybody, welcome back to the I Play 2 podcast. I'm your host, Rob Adler. This week, Georgetown volleyball player Vaughan Anoa'i joins the show. In high school at the Archer School for Girls in California, she helped lead Archer to back-to-back league titles, and as a senior was named Archer's Athlete of the Year. Also, she won back-to-back USA Girls Volleyball Junior National Championships and was named to the All-Tournament team in 2022. And this season at Georgetown, Vaughan is the team leader in blocks, as Georgetown has won 7 of their first 9 matches. Her uncles, Roman Reigns and Yokozuna, are former WWE World Champions, and other wrestling relatives include Rikishi, Jimmy and Jay Uso, and Alpha and Sikoa, who are known as the Wild Samoans. Vaughan, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, how are you?
I'm not too bad. This is great to finally connect, and I hope you're not too tired from traveling back because you had a couple volleyball matches over the weekend.
It was definitely a hectic and chaotic week since we played Seton Hall on Wednesday, and I just got back from Indianapolis earlier this morning, but it's been a whirlwind. I'm definitely embracing all of the highs and lows, and honestly can't believe that we're already halfway through the season at this point.
How is it balancing that with also your academics? Because as we were chatting before the show, midterms are on the horizon.
I would say for all Georgetown students, midterms seem never ending, essentially from the start of the semester until it's time for finals. We have midterm exams, assignments, and essays that are due, but I really have honed my time management skills now that I'm a junior in college. So I've definitely found a system that works for me. And I think it really just comes down to when I do have breaks, especially when we're on the road, just trying to get as much homework as I can done. And that allows me during the off days to have a little bit more time to myself to decompress and relax after long weekends of playing. So definitely a work in progress, but I am proud of myself for the way that I am juggling everything.
When you do have time to, as you say, decompress and relax, what do you like to do?
So I would say my answer for this more so applies over the summer because I'm a huge reader. This past summer, I read 6 books, which was really a lot of fun. I would say during the school year, since I am an American Studies major, which is a humanities course, I typically have a lot of reading assignments, sometimes 1 to 2 books I have to read per week. So I'm not able to do that as much during the semester, but definitely when I have some free time during winter break or spring break, and then obviously the summertime, I do enjoy reading. I love to spend time with my friends and family, going on walks, and just doing things that help relax and ease my mind away from academics and away from volleyball.
Let's say over the past year, what's the favorite book you've read?
For my internship this past summer, my boss, she actually gifted me this book, and the book is called Atomic Habits. And I am definitely a type A perfectionist personality. That's always been my identity ever since I was a kid. And this book really focuses on the importance of habit building and also mental toughness as well. So that was something that I really enjoyed. I think if anyone who knows me well enough, they know that I love self-help books of really any genre. And so I would say that is my favorite self-help book at the moment, but I'm always looking for any recommendations.
When it comes to mental toughness, how important is that in not just the athletic world, but also the academic world?
I think it's something that I'm still working towards every day. Like I had mentioned before, I am a perfectionist at heart, so shortcomings and mistakes have never been easy for me to accept. But as I've matured in the game of volleyball, and since volleyball quite literally is a game of mistakes, I've really had to develop a next ball mentality, which is certainly easier said than done, especially in crunch time situations and games. But I think it has really taught me the importance of looking to the future instead of ruminating and living in the past. And it's something that I really have goal set for myself for a number of years now. It's something that my parents, especially my dad, he will preach to me every single day, just the significance of looking to the future and really not dwelling in past mistakes or situations that may not have turned out the way that I wanted them to. But I think that volleyball has certainly helped build my character in that way, and also taught me similar lessons in the classroom if I'm frustrated with a grade that I got, or just teaching me the importance of advocating for myself in a group project setting. So I would say there are a number of lessons that I've garnered from this one testament of looking to the future, next ball mentality, and maintaining a growth mindset as well.
You mentioned being an advocate for yourself, and you play volleyball, which historically is a predominantly white sport. How has learning to be an advocate for yourself enabled you to be so successful in volleyball where people of color don't often get to the heights that you've gotten?
I would say my parents are definitely my greatest inspiration in terms of utilizing my voice and advocating for myself. And I think that that was something that was embedded in me as young as an elementary school student, just teaching me the importance of sticking up for myself when I feel I'm not being represented or treated fairly. And that is something that has been instilled with me even as a college student today. And I think in high school, when I really started to get into clubs, and obviously being on a club team, we will travel throughout the year to a bunch of different states outside of California for our travel tournaments. And I think that was honestly a wake up call for me that coming from Los Angeles, I've always been in, I would say, rather diverse environments. So seeing some of the teams and other clubs that we would play against, and like you had said, volleyball being a predominantly white sport, it was something that almost instilled a sense of pride within me, not only for how far that I had come, but also recognizing that I had the power, the fortitude, and really, I would say the privilege within myself to recognize that this path that had been paved for me is not the same story for so many other girls of color. So I think that was, like I had said, certainly a wake up call, but also a sense of pride within myself of knowing that I have the power to effectively create and spark change. And so I think that was something that was really meaningful to me and still is up to this day.
I've had a couple of other minority volleyball players on the show in Asia O'Neill and Blair Moon, and they both kind of talked a little bit about what you had said. What's it like to now be a role model where people can look up to you and say, I want to be like Vaughn?
It is an incredibly humbling and fulfilling experience. I think for so many years, being a club athlete, I always looked up to so many collegiate volleyball players just because at the time, being in the midst of the recruiting process, which certainly did have its highs and lows as for any athlete, not only specific to volleyball, but I always knew that it was a goal that I wanted to accomplish in my life. So the fact that I am on the other side of it, and even more so halfway through my collegiate career, is something that is incredibly meaningful to me. And I think that, as I had mentioned in my previous response, it's something that I take great pride and responsibility in serving as a role model, not only for younger club players, but even for the underclassmen on my current team. It's something that I definitely pride myself on and am continuing to improve and really refine as well.
With the recruiting process, and I know other athletes that have had the ups and downs as well, what were a little bit of the ups and downs about the process?
For me, I would say the recruiting process certainly was unique just because most of it did take place during the pandemic. So this was in March to April, heading into the summertime of 2020. So a majority of the club tournaments that my team had signed up for were canceled due to the pandemic. So I would say initially there were feelings of fear and anxiety, just given the fact that the future seemed so uncertain, and we honestly had no idea when the next time we would be able to play would be. And seeing as how college coaches attend most of these tournaments, and that's where their recruiting trips are, I was a little bit nervous that I wouldn't be able to receive the same exposure that I typically would have been if the pandemic didn't happen. But as always in life, the wheel turns and we have to adapt and ultimately just roll with the punches. And I think that that was a great lesson that the pandemic taught me in terms of being adaptable and recognizing that there are so many factors outside of my control. So I think it definitely helped refine and really narrow my focus on what was directly in front of me in the foreseeable future and not having to look too far down the road in terms of if a school is going to recruit me or what that entire process would eventually unfold and look like.
During the pandemic, how are you able to stay active and train since people couldn't get together?
It was certainly an adjustment at first, but I credit a lot of my growth and progress during those few months in the pandemic to my dad. We spent a lot of time together working out, and that honestly didn't even start because of the pandemic. We have always been gym rat buddies together for as long as I can remember, and I would say that's my favorite part of being home for the summertime, just the fact that I have so much time that I can spend with my family, but I really do enjoy any time that I'm able to spend with him in the gym. Even if we're not working on volleyball together, we do spend quite a bit of time lifting. So I would say he was definitely my guiding compass and North Star throughout all of the highs and lows of the pandemic in terms of keeping me on track with my volleyball training, but then also finding new avenues and alternatives for us to work on certain details of my game that perhaps I didn't have as much time to work on prior to the pandemic. So I think both of my parents really enforce the importance of shifting our mindset and trying to find a silver lining, since it is so easy to only focus on the negative that at a certain point you begin to spiral. But I think they really turn that ideal on its head and focus on the importance of really utilizing this extra time that I had at home. And I definitely reaped the benefits of it once I was able to compete again in the remaining club tournaments my senior year of high school.
Your dad, who was also a pro wrestler for a time, and in the pro wrestling world, you have to be adaptable and things like that. What was a great piece of advice that he gave you on learning how to be adaptable and understanding you can't control everything?
For as long as I can remember, and this is just, again, a testament to my personality being a perfectionist and being someone with type A tendencies, he would always tell me that being nervous is not something that you should resist or be embarrassed of, because I always remember him telling me that being nervous and having nerves keeps you sharp. And that wasn't even specific to volleyball because he told me this when maybe I was in kindergarten or first grade and I was nervous about something that we were doing in class that day. And I explained that I had butterflies in my stomach or that I had nerves. And he really taught me the importance of that. Just shows your instinct and shows that you really care about the given situation at hand and that you want to perform well and that you are capable of performing at a high level. And so, whenever I am feeling a little bit anxious, whether it's before a volleyball game or before a big presentation that I have to do for one of my classes, I really just remind myself that nerves keep me sharp and that I am capable of whatever I set my mind to. And also, like I'd mentioned before, just trusting the process and trusting in all of the work that I've put in, because I think there is really no greater confidence boost than knowing that you've taken the time off seriously and that you are ready and prepared to go. So he's given me obviously a number of helpful pieces of advice throughout the years, but the one pertaining to nerves is the one that I would say I constantly reference and find myself coming back to even as a 20-year-old today.
We've talked a little bit about your dad, but how important was your mom growing up in terms of getting you to tournaments, being involved, and things like that?
I would say, and I do say this quite frequently, but none of this would be possible without my parents. And I think that my mom has played such a pivotal and vital role in my volleyball career, just making sure that I'm always at practice on time. If I have additional privates that I need to attend, she had always been there for me and really taking the time out of her schedule as well to support me at all of my tournaments is something that I'm incredibly grateful for, and it remains a constant up to this day. Both of my parents come to all of my games. They fly all the way from LA to wherever we are playing, even if it's not in DC. And that's something that really means a lot to me. That obviously goes without saying, but all of her support and encouragement and belief in me really gives me strength on the days when I am not feeling my strongest or when I am feeling down. So everything that she has instilled within me is something that I certainly do take great pride in. And even though she was not an athlete, or at least to the level that my dad and I are, she still always will lift me up. And the advice that she has shared with me has also changed my perspective and mindset on so many things. So I am incredibly grateful to her for always supporting me through all of the ups and downs and also just accepting and seeing me for who I am.
Away from the athletic realm, what's a favorite memory that you have with your folks?
Ooh, that's a great question. I always enjoy summertime. As an only child, I do get to spend quite a bit of time with my parents whenever I'm home, but summer, the fact that it is nearly 3 months in length, it's obviously a significantly longer period of time. But I would have to say our summer vacation trip, it's me, my parents, and my cousin Samson, who is Rikishi's youngest son. He is a junior in high school. And we always go to the Dominican Republic, and it's really our happy place, I would say. This past summer was the fourth year that we have gone. It's, I would say, easily the most relaxed that I am throughout the entire year. And we love to go horseback riding and swimming and dune buggying and dirt biking. So there are a number of activities that I'm not able to do during the school year or even when I'm at home back in LA. So I would say that's certainly one of my favorite memories and is a trip that I always look forward to during the school year. And I know that Samson can say the same as well. And it's really just, I would say, a celebration of all of our hard work, both on the court or in his case, on the field and in the classroom throughout the year. So I think it's a wonderful reward for us to all enjoy that time with one another in such a beautiful place.
Are you saying that you can't go dune bugging in the heart of DC?
I haven't found a spot yet, but if anyone knows of any places, then they'll have to let me know because I really have grown to love dune buggying in the past couple of summers.
Speaking of DC, for people who haven't been to Georgetown and seen the campus, could you kind of talk about what it's all about?
Absolutely. I would say Georgetown's campus is incredibly historic, seeing as how the school was founded in 1789. So it has been around for quite a bit of time. I would say the most iconic Georgetown building would have to be Healy Hall, and that is arguably the building where the most tourists and visitors will take their group shots or individual pictures in front of. But something that I love about Georgetown, it definitely is a smaller campus, and when I was applying to colleges, I knew that I wanted to go to a bit of a smaller school, so I was immediately drawn to Georgetown's campus since it's on the smaller side, but still decently spread out enough. But I absolutely love the campus. I love the greater DC area. I think it's so special to be able to attend college in the nation's capital and be able to walk to the monuments or walk to a number of incredible museums that are so rich with history and culture. So I truly am grateful every day to attend an institution of higher learning like Georgetown.
When you do have the chance to go walk around the city, what's the museum that you like to head to?
Ooh, that's another great question. I love to go to the African American Museum of History and Culture. I would say that is typically my go-to. I remember before I had even committed to Georgetown, since my mom is a Howard grad, we would spend quite a bit of time in DC when I was younger. So I had actually been to this museum before, but last January, when my mom was in town, we went back and visited it again, and it was just such a remarkable experience being able to go for a second time now that I was obviously much older than I was when I first visited. And there are so many different levels to the museum, like I said, that are rich with history and culture. And I truly do feel as though I learned so much even within one visit. So I would definitely say that that has to be my favorite museum by far.
If you ever get a chance to go to New York City, you ought to go to the Schomburg Library. It's up in Harlem, and they have a catalog, a lot of the older African American newspapers that no longer exist, and you can kind of just get lost in there for a day.
Oh, wow. I'll have to write down that place. Thank you for telling me because New York isn't too far away, and I have a few friends who attend school there.
When I was doing work on some former Negro League players back in the early 2000s, I spent a couple days there just looking through headlines and things like that for a couple of documentaries.
And that's really cool that they have an archive and collection where you are able to access those materials and resources now.
Getting back to Georgetown, how did you end up deciding on Georgetown over any of the other schools that were recruiting you?
It was definitely not an easy decision to go to a school so far away, just because California is not close, and there are a number of students at Georgetown who are from the DMV area or at least somewhere in the East Coast. But when I was doing my research, as I had mentioned to you before, I really want to go to law school. And so I think I became the most familiar with Georgetown's law program, which led me to eventually delve deeper and explore their undergraduate programs. And when I came on my first visit, it was an unofficial visit, but I went with my parents. And I honestly just fell in love with campus. I immediately felt comfortable here and could envision myself not only on the volleyball team, but in the classrooms. And like I had said before, I really appreciated the feel of a smaller school since my high school was all girls and rather small in numbers. So that was something that I knew I wanted for my college experience as well. I wasn't really looking for a big rah-rah sports school to attend. So I knew that Georgetown was a place that I could envision and feel myself thriving and ultimately succeeding. And it's safe to say that I was certainly correct in that decision. It really was instinctual. I think I will go back to what my dad has always told me, like your instincts and nerves. That really does tell you all of the answers that you need to know in life. And I think that that was a decision that I made not only for myself, but also recognizing the impact that it would have on my future after undergrad and even after law school, because there truly is no other university quite like Georgetown.
What intrigued you so much about law in terms of continuing your academic studies?
I feel like as someone who has always been passionate about humanities courses like English and history, and even when I was in elementary school, I was the president of the debate team that we had. And even though that was a while ago, I always had been drawn to various speaking engagement opportunities. I have never feared public speaking and embracing debate, which was a new experience at the time, but it was something that I enjoyed doing. And I would say in middle school, as I continued to get older and develop more of my interests in what I would be likely to pursue in the future, I kept on coming back to law. And a lot of people had even told me, like, oh, you would make a great litigator, a great lawyer. And it was something that I think those kind of comments just fell by the wayside at first. But once I really considered it, and given my love for public speaking and writing and reading, I think I knew in that moment that, like they had told me, I would be a good law school candidate and I potentially could have the capability to become a lawyer in the future as well. So I think from there, it really had just become an aspiration and dream of mine. And I've spoken about it with my parents before, even if I don't end up becoming a practicing lawyer, like the fact that I would have a law degree is a win within itself for sure.
I can tell you're not afraid of public speaking because you're a better speaker than 95 to 98% of anybody I've ever spoken to is.
Well, thank you.
I read that you had done this charitable thing called Vaughn's Block Back Pledge, which donated $25 for every block to several volleyball clubs around Southern California. Could you kind of talk a little bit more about that and how the idea came about?
So this idea really came into fruition during the pandemic, and I had mentioned it in one of my previous responses, but due to COVID, all of the club tournaments were canceled for the rest of that season. So my club director was emailing every player and their families to let them know that there would be a refund for all of the money that they had put forth and paid ahead of the tournaments. And when she sent me back my money, I responded back to her email and let her know that I would rather not accept the money and I would rather her give it to a young player in need at the club who perhaps needed it for the following season or just for any other additional costs that they were needing to cover. And it was really just that first decision that sparked the rest of what we know today as Vaughn's Blockback Pledge, because I think I recognized in that moment that this didn't just have to be a one-time gesture. Like this was something that I could transform into a form that is a lot bigger and extends beyond just my volleyball club and into other teams and corporations that also are in dire need. So I think that was really the initial stages that happened during the pandemic. And I recognized being a middle blocker as my position. It definitely went hand in hand that the charity itself revolves around blocking, which is something that I take great pride in and spend quite a bit of time working on when I am home during the summer. So that's really how it first came into fruition. And it's really incredible and fulfilling to see how it's grown over the past couple of years since this was developed my junior year in high school, and I am currently a junior in college right now. So it really warms my heart and brings me a sense of peace knowing the amount of girls that I have helped, not only for my club, but in the greater Southern California area.
Speaking of helping players, when you were a younger player, who was someone that helped you out that made you think, hey, you know what? I can go to college, I can go play volleyball and get an education.
I would say my high school coach was a huge source of inspiration for me. She was my coach my freshman and sophomore year. And not to say that she was not tough and demanded a lot out of her players, but she ultimately did bring out the best in me. And being a freshman in high school, that was my first time playing on varsity. There was a lot for me to learn, but she really taught me the ropes and also taught me the importance of hard work and discipline. And I think she really instilled the belief in me that with hard work, determination, and ultimately believing in myself and my capabilities, that I would have the opportunity to eventually play in college if that was something that I set my mind to. So, again, being on the other side of it now, it's just incredibly rewarding to see all of the hard work and sacrifice that I put in for countless years ultimately pay off in such a meaningful and profound way.
Were you solely a volleyball athlete growing up, or did you play other sports?
I dabbled in a few other sports, but volleyball was the one that I liked by far the best.
I will admit here, I didn't know a whole lot about Archer and I kind of had to Google it. So, could you kind of tell people a little bit more about what it was like to go to Archer and what the school is like to attend?
I would say similar to what I have discussed about Georgetown, but there really is no other school like Archer. I went there for 7 years, so for both middle and high school, which was, I would say, an awesome experience just because I was able to grow close to so many of the other girls in my grade since we had spent so much time together. And it was a very small school. I would say my graduating class was maybe 65 girls in total. So I always joke that my graduation ceremony was maybe 45 minutes at the very longest, unlike other high schools. I know they're out on their football fields, and it's certainly a different experience than the one that I had just described. But I will forever cherish my time at Archer. It helped shape me into the person that I am today, and a lot of the core values that I preach and that I hold myself true to, like advocating for myself, using my voice, and standing up for others, are all values and really incredible life lessons that I garnered when I was there as a middle school student, and then obviously as I grew and progressed to become a high school student. So it's a very small all girls school in Brentwood, California, but it will always have a special place in my heart. I am forever grateful to all of the amazing professors and teachers who, again, helped shape me into the person that I am today, but for all of those who believed in me, believed in my talents, and always wanted the best for me as well.
Being that you're on the opposite coast right now, family aside, is there anything you miss about being back home?
Yes, absolutely. I am a native Angelino at heart. I think that LA is the best city in the entire world, and a lot of people who are from the East Coast here certainly disagree with that, but I definitely miss the warm weather. I would say right now, fall is beautiful on the East Coast, but especially in Georgetown, so it is nice, I would say, having 4 seasons, especially in the spring when the cherry blossoms are out in DC. But as someone who is born and raised in Los Angeles. I was raised in the valley. I'm used to the heat, used to the sunshine. So on days when it is pretty windy and rainy here, I will think back and say, wow, I wish I was at home right now because I'm sure the sun is shining and it's a nice, cool LA breeze. But Los Angeles will always be home for me no matter where I end up in life. So I'm grateful for any time when I am able to head back home and spend it with my family and really just enjoy all of the fun places that I like to go when I'm home.
Did you ever get into surfing, paddleboarding, anything like that?
I would say a little bit. I think there was one summer when I was in elementary school that I was definitely immersed in attempting to learn how to surf. I love to boogie board a lot. I love to go to the beach. But my childhood best friend, she is a big surfer all the time at home, and she goes to the University of Hawaii. So I definitely live vicariously through her. She's much more talented at surfing than I am. but it's always a joy to watch her.
She gets to go to the North Shore. You don't get much better surfing environment than that.
Exactly. Yeah, she definitely gets a lot of practice when she's at home, but then even when she's at school as well, which is great.
You should mention to her, Steve Hawk, Tony Hawk's brother, mentioned it to me. He said the best surfing in the United States is off the coast of Alaska.
Really? Okay, I'll have to mention that to her for sure.
When you are back home and around family, what's it like to be around a family reunion? Because your family is large, there are a ton of athletes. What's it like to be all back together? Because it's so rare with all of your family being so spread out.
So my mom is an only child, and I am also an only child as well. So I think for both of us, it feels very different when we are around my dad's side of the family, just given the fact, like you said, there are so many of us. But regardless of the time or distance apart from one another, the love is always there. And I think that that's something that I really value, and it means a lot to me that regardless of how many years it has been since I saw a particular family member, they greet me with the same warmth and excitement as if I saw them every single day. So that's something that is very special to me. Even this past summer, seeing a few people from Florida who I haven't seen in quite a bit of time really meant a lot to me. And I think for anyone's family, obviously there's a sense of pride, but especially for mine, just seeing all of the incredible accomplishments and positive strides that each of them have been respectively making definitely motivates me as well to continue striving for excellence, striving for greatness in all of my own personal endeavors. So I'm just really grateful for all of my family members and am excited to see what the future holds for all of them and their respective journeys and careers as well.
With your dad's side being so heavily involved in wrestling, has there ever been a thought for you being an athlete that you would dabble in that as well?
I think a lot of people are expecting me to dabble in it, but I know that I am paving my own path, my own journey at the moment, and I recognize that my calling does not reside in wrestling. I definitely leave that to the professionals in my family who have trained long and hard for it, because I know in my heart that I have another calling and aspiration in life that I am interested in pursuing. So I will continue cheering for my family members from the sideline because that is something that they will specialize in, but I know that I have different aspirations and obviously goals for what my life will look like in the future.
You are ready to become a lawyer because that is definitely a law type answer.
That's a huge compliment to me. Thank you.
Forgive the one other wrestling question here, but have you ever been to a WrestleMania?
Yes, actually, my first WrestleMania was just this past year in Philadelphia.
As a fan, what was it like just to go and to be able to see some of your family members perform at that highest level?
I would say it was unlike any other experience I have ever had in my life. And I went with my best friend and roommate who had never been to a wrestling show, let alone a WrestleMania before. So it was definitely a new experience for both of us. So we definitely felt like novices going into it. But I remember even in the airport, flying from DC to Philadelphia, seeing the number of fans with my family members on their shirt. Like, I think that was something that certainly caught me off guard and made me recognize just the impact that their careers are having on a number of people's lives. So it certainly was an incredible sense of pride. And even just being in the arena once WrestleMania started, it was absolutely incredible to see them.
Well, I have never been to one. I got to imagine just the spectacle of it. It's kind of like a Super Bowl in some ways. And it's like, holy cow, I can't believe all these people are here to see people that I know.
Exactly. That was the exact experience that I had because, like I said, it was in Philadelphia at the Eagle Stadium. So it certainly felt reminiscent of a Super Bowl or some sort of large championship. So it was pretty surreal to be there for sure.
Outside of volleyball and wrestling, do you follow any other sports at all?
I'm a huge basketball fan. I would say basketball, believe it or not, is my favorite sport to watch aside from volleyball. But I love following the NBA. There are a number of athletes that I look up to and really love hearing their personal stories and their upbringings that help shape them into the players and people that they are today. So I would say I'm a huge basketball fan. I've come to appreciate baseball and softball a little bit more since my best friend plays for the softball team here at Georgetown. So I've definitely learned a lot more about both of those sports, whereas before it was not something that I paid a lot of attention to.
When it comes to the NBA, who are the players that you cheer loudest for?
So my dad and I are both Warriors fans, even though I am from LA, I am not a Lakers or Clippers fan. So I love Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga. I'm also a big Kawhi Leonard fan, Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, Kobe Bryant, of course, Michael Jordan, some of the other greats. But there are a number of players, even like Anthony Edwards, Carl Anthony Towns, that I really look up to and really love hearing more about their respective journeys and all of the sacrifice that it took for them to reach really the pinnacle of success within their careers in today's day and age.
As a Dallas Mavericks fan myself, I'm glad to see Klay Thompson in my team's jersey and not with the Warriors anymore.
I am so jealous. I think that was pure heartbreak seeing him in a Mavericks jersey and seeing that the Splash Brothers are no longer together. It still doesn't feel real to me. Sometimes I'm like, maybe this is just a bad nightmare and he's still going to be on the Warriors this season.
It's just kind of strange, even for me as a Mavericks fan, to see it.
I heard the trade rumors before, so I wasn't completely aloof to what might be going on, but when it actually happened, it felt unreal. I can only imagine how Steph Curry is feeling, along with the rest of the team, too.
With your love of the Warriors and Steve Kerr, their head coach, is a very knowledgeable and insightful guy. Is there anything that he's ever said that you say, I need to pay attention to that? I need to find a way to incorporate that in what I'm doing?
Absolutely. I would say I look to a lot of the players on the Warriors team, or anyone for that matter, who is a professional athlete, but especially Steve Kerr, who had such a dominant career when he played for the Bulls, and then obviously transitioning to become a head coach and seeing all of the success that the Warriors have had in recent years is something that I definitely find to be incredibly inspirational and really powerful as well. I would say for me, just the importance of togetherness. And now that I am an upperclassman on the team and will be transitioning into more of a leadership role in the future, that is something that I definitely want to instill within the team culture and also just establish a sense of rapport between myself and all of my teammates. I am a class of one, so I am the only junior on the team. So I really do try to make conscious efforts to reach out and connect with my teammates who are older than me, and then certainly the ones who are younger than me as well and are still learning the ropes of what it's like being a student athlete at Georgetown.
When it comes to the leadership side of things, let's say when you were an underclassman, either in high school or at Georgetown, was there ever a teammate who's given you some advice that you said, okay, when I become a leader or in a spot of leadership, I'm going to pay this forward?
I am really grateful, I would say, to have played with so many incredible young women who have really believed in me and my talents. And as someone who is incredibly hard on themselves and very self-critical as well, I would say a lot of my close friends and teammates have really taken it upon themselves to step in those moments when I am not being the nicest to myself or I'm not being really realistic and seeing the bigger picture. They have really stepped in and made sure that I recognize my sense of worth. And I would say one of my teammates taught me the importance of compartmentalizing volleyball and recognizing that even though it does feel very big in the moment, so many years later down the line, it isn't going to feel as dominant or as pressing. So to find other aspects within my life that I can really value and recognize that my sport does not define who I am as a person. And certainly the same goes for schooling as well, that my grades do not define the kind of person that I am. So I'm really grateful to that teammate who shared those words of wisdom and shared that advice with me because it was certainly something that I needed to hear at that point in time. And it's something that I really do my best to remind my other teammates when they are struggling and feel as though they are stuck in a bit of a rut.
With the Pro Volleyball Federation now growing and growing, when you leave Georgetown, is there a thought of ever possibly playing pro volleyball?
As of now, I would say I am prioritizing law school and then obviously the remainder of my undergraduate education. So it's not something, if I'm being transparent, that I can say I've given a lot of thought to. I've played volleyball ever since I was 11 years old. Next year, when I turn 21, it'll be 10 years of playing pretty much throughout the entire year. So in some ways, I definitely would feel satisfied with finishing my career in terms of volleyball and really just focusing on law school, since that will be an incredibly rigorous education as well. But I am honestly inspired and enamored by seeing the growth of these pro volleyball leagues, and especially with the Olympics this past summer, it was really awesome to see the amount of people who not only attended the games in person in Paris, but were tuning in as well from all parts of the world.
Speaking of the Olympics, are you excited that it's coming to your hometown in 2028?
I would say it is bittersweet, and this might be a glass half empty mindset, but if anyone who has visited or knows LA, our traffic is absolutely horrible. So I am trying to brace myself mentally for what the traffic is going to look like when everyone is here for the Olympics.
I've been to LA. I can attest to the traffic, and that's where you say, you know what, I'm going to attend law school somewhere else.
Right? That might be the plan, actually.
One other thing I want to get in because we haven't talked about it is you won back-to-back junior national championships with USA girls volleyball. How did you end up getting picked for the team, and what was it like to get there and win?
It was honestly such an awesome experience. And since this tournament was at the end of our season, it was certainly a culmination of all of the hard work that we had put into throughout all of the ups and downs, dealing with the pandemic, having to practice and play in masks. So there were certainly caveats that in the moment did not feel the most convenient, but when we had those gold medals around our neck, it was as if all of the hardships and struggles were certainly worth it in that moment. And the tournament itself, the first gold medal that I won, that was 4 days. So it was quite a bit of volleyball play over those 4 days. And it was an incredible opportunity to play so many teams from all corners of the United States, some teams even from US territories like Puerto Rico, for example. So it really was a special moment to share that with my teammates, share that with my coaches, and recognize that hard work always pays off, even if you aren't able to see it immediately in the moment. Later down the road, it certainly will come full circle.
After either one of the gold medals, what was the celebration like?
I would say the celebration was resting, which to me, hearing that as a Division 1 athlete, there honestly is no greater celebration than relaxing and taking some time away. But I remember the first gold medal that I won, it was in Vegas, so not too far away from Los Angeles, and I have some family who lives in Vegas, so I remember just going out to dinner with them, spending time over there, which was a lot of fun. And then my senior year, the second gold medal was won in Phoenix, Arizona. And I believe I had to hop right on the plane because I had school the next day. But I remember that all of my classmates were congratulating me, and I was able to bring the medal to school with me, which was a really cool experience that I will never forget.
It's got to be cool to win a title, and even though the next day you're at school, you're like, hey, everybody, I represented us well.
Exactly. Everyone was very kind and very congratulatory, which I appreciated.
I ask all of the younger guests that I have on this show this question, and I'm going to ask you it as well. Where do you see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, I see myself continuing to evolve into the best version of myself because that's a goal that I have every single day. Even if it's 1% better or 80% better, that's something that I continuously work towards. And again, it's not exclusive to my play on the volleyball court or how well I do on a test in the classroom. It's really just the energy that I possess, the energy that I radiate, and the kind of person that I am showing up as each and every day. So I am hopeful that I will continue to evolve into the best version of myself. I will be hopefully out of law school, hopefully have passed the bar by then, but ultimately have come to a place where I am continuously bettering myself and looking for new ways to continue learning. I always say this, but education is such a powerful tool, especially in this day and age, which is why I don't take a single day for granted here at Georgetown. I am incredibly grateful for the education that I receive and all of the truly insightful lessons that I have learned during my short time here. And I recognize that, as cliche as it may sound, like you really do learn something new every day. So that's something that I will continue to keep as my guiding compass and North Star throughout the next 10 years and certainly the rest of my life as well.
Vaughn, thank you so much for joining the I Play 2 podcast today and talking about your volleyball career, your mental toughness, your closeness with your family, and your burgeoning law career. Thank you so much. Take care and best of luck.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. This was such a wonderful conversation.